The lamb Rogan Josh, a personal favourite of mine, not only because it tastes fantastic, but it's got such a rich history. There are a few key elements of a lamb Rogan Josh, which I'll talk you through as we're walking through the recipe. But just to explain what it is, Rogan is roughly translated into red, which comes from the beautiful, beautiful red Kashmiri chilies. And Josh means to cook with passion, to cook with love. So it's a vibrant red dish that's cooked with lots of energy and lots of passion and lots of love. So I'm going to start by heating up some mustard oil. The reason that I'm going to do this is that mustard oil is known to have a few sort of impurities, and whenever you use mustard oil in Indian cooking, you take it up to a really high smoking point and then cool it right down again, and then add your spices to it. So we're just going to let that heat up, and then we're going to again cool that down, and then we're going to start to add our spices in. So you'll see the pan starting to smoke now, so I'm just going to turn that right down, and I'm going to just let that cool off so that the oil cools down. I don't want to add my spices in now because they'll just burn. So let's just let the oil cool down, and then we'll start to add our spices and get some flavour into the oil. Now the mustard oil's cooled down a little bit, I'm going to start to add my spices. My version of the lamb Rogan Josh is very much the traditional version, so I don't have any onions, ginger or garlic in my dish. And the reason for that is it's very much the Hindu version up in the Kashmir region. So what I'm going to use to give the essence of onion and garlic is asafoetida. It's a spice that's used in Indian cooking a fair amount up in the north, and what it does is it gives that lovely oniony garlicky flavour without actually using onion or garlic. And what you need to do is just temper that in some oil and give that a little stir. It's really good for you. You only need a very small amount, so I've just used about 1/4 teaspoon there. And then I'm going to start to add all of my other spices. So the first thing I'm going to add in is cassia bark. That gives a little bit of residual sort of sweetness in the back of your dish, but also a bit of earthiness. So just crack that up, about 5 centimetres. Just pop it in. I've got a little piece here I'm going to add in. There we go. I'm going to put in a teaspoon of cumin seeds for a little bit of earthiness. I'm going to add in about 3 cloves. I'll put 4 in. And also some cardamom. So cloves and cardamom go together like brother and sister. So whenever you use cardamom, you tend to use cloves as well. All you need to do is just crack them open and put them in. If you don't like cardamom, you can just take the seeds out and give them a crush and put those in. The other spice we're going to use is black cardamom. So this is something that's not used an awful lot in Western cooking, but it gives a real smokiness, a real earthy flavour. And again, it's the same principle, just crack it open and just pop that in there. I'm going to put 2 of those in. And as I said earlier, this dish is all about that beautiful red Kashmiri chilli. So I'm going to throw in a couple of whole Kashmiri chilies as well. It'll give lovely colour, but it'll also give a really intense heat as well. There we go. So give the spices a stir through. And whenever you're using whole spices, as soon as you can smell them, as soon as you get the aromatics from them, it's time to go in with your next ingredient. And with this specific dish, we're just going to pop our meat straight in. So no onions and garlic, as I've said before. I'm using leg meat just because for this kind of a dish, I like to use leg meat. Essentially, what we're doing is we're just going to seal that meat. Give it a stir, coat it all with the lovely spices and the flavours. And because I've put something cold in the pan, it's cooled the pan right down. So I'm just going to turn my heat up just a touch, just to start to get that meat cooking through. Now into this is where the red comes in, is where I'm going to start to add the Kashmiri chili powder. So this is Kashmiri chili powder. It's a beautiful, vibrant red colour, and that's where this dish gets that vibrance from. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of that in and give that a stir through. Now, because I'm starting to put some dry powdered spices in, I'm going to just turn my heat down a little bit because I don't want it to burn. I don't want them to catch on the bottom of the pan. But as you'll see, it's starting to go a beautiful reddy browny colour. I'm going to pop in some salt as well, obviously for seasoning, so a teaspoon of salt. The other key ingredient that you have in a lamb Rogan Josh is aniseed. It's all about a very gentle aniseed undertone. And what I'm going to use for that is fennel. So fennel seeds are these lovely green little seeds. They, again, are really good for you, really good for your tummy, really good for digestion. And what I've done already is I've just ground some of those up just in a spice grinder. And I'm going to put in a teaspoon of fennel and also some ginger powder. I'm going to give that a stir through, and it's looking really nice now. It's starting to get the red coming through. Now, a traditional lamb Rogan Josh doesn't have any tomatoes in it. The gravy or the sauce comes from curd. So I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of yoghurt into this, and then we're just going to reduce the heat and then pop the lid on, and we're going to leave it to cook for about an hour. Whenever you use yoghurt in a dish like this, just make sure that your temperature's not too high because you don't want the yoghurt to split. So I tend to use Greek yoghurt, just a nice full fat Greek yoghurt. I'm going to pop that in. I tend to put 1 tablespoon in at a time, give it a stir, make sure that it all coats the meat, and then I'll put my other one in. I just want it almost to melt through with each teaspoon rather than putting a whole load in. So I'm going to just do it 1 tablespoon at a time. So I've put in 3 tablespoons of yoghurt into this, and we've got a little gravy there at the bottom. And what I'm going to do now is leave that on a very gentle heat, pop the lid on the pan, and we're just going to leave that to cook and simmer through. And we'll probably take about an hour, and we'll come back to it and have a look at the finished dish. So the lamb has been sizzling away for about an hour. I'm really quite excited now because this is all about that passion and that love that we talked about. So it's beautifully tender, I hope. I'm just going to have a little stir, have a little check. It's looking lovely. The way that I like to have my traditional Rogan Josh is with a little bit of water just to get much more of a gravy in there. So I'm going to add some hot water into there and I'm going to serve up. There we go. I'm just going to pour a little bit of hot water, give that a stir. That's looking lovely. I'm getting the beautiful red vibrance from this dish, and that's what's making me really happy. So I'm just going to serve this up really simply in a little bowl, and we're going to have that with some rice. It's more about the sauce and it's more about that beautiful, vibrant gravy for me.